For me, joy is natural when we recognize who we are. There's gonna be joy. There's no fear. It's all gone. No shame, no anger, and that naturally is gonna become joy. There'll be space for joy. Spontaneity is joy. There's only joy of existence. The sense of just being here is joyful. It's perfect. My whole life was resistance before awakening, only fear, anger, a lot of shame, and terrified of being myself with this idea that I'm not good enough, not um, nice enough. There's something wrong inside all the time, this feeling there's something wrong, and that someone at any minute is going to find out I'm not good enough and reject me, and I would be alone. This feeling was there my whole existence. Um, I had very few friends that I could be close to because I just couldn't trust myself or anyone else really, and it was fear and loneliness and despair. That's a good example. Actually, with my children on the beach, we'd gone to have a really good time, and the kids were enjoying themselves. They were digging in the sand and in the going in the ocean. And I wanted to go in the ocean, but I felt like I should be here with the books. So I was reading the books, and I was wanting to be over here, but feeling like I should be over here the whole time, reading the books. And when I was outside doing something that was supposed to be fun, I felt like I should be home inside studying to try to wake up to the truth. Then when I was home studying or watching Satsang, then I wanted to be outside. I felt scared and angry when I was outside and lonely when I was inside. And it was just like this. My life was like this. And it was lonely. And I realized my children had more capacity to be awake to truth than I did because they were just having fun. And they were so having fun that they didn't even realize when they'd been in the ocean too long and they were getting cold, um, because they were so in the moment. And it's like, I want that. I want that feeling. And I thought it was in the books, and maybe it was, but it was also right there, and I was missing it so much, every moment missing it. I think I had this knowing somewhere inside that if I went inside enough, it would somehow turn around. But I didn't really understand that inside and outside were the same. So I was rejecting one and trying to hold on to the other, rejecting the outside world, trying to go further in. So it just made me feel more separate, more in duality. It was really like being stuck in a loop all the time. There's a belief in most people, as there was in myself, that there is this magic moment where all of a sudden you wake up to the truth, you see it clearly. But that isn't always the case. In fact, hardly ever. And usually, for most people, it's a lot of little moments, moment of seeing. And this idea that there's nothing you can do to make this moment happen, it's true and it's untrue at the same time. There's a feeling you can't make gravity make this fruit drop when it's ripe, but you can make the fruit heavier. You can make it riper and make it more ready to drop, which is what we do with our practice, our spiritual practice. It's only to ripen the fruit. And gradually that gets more and more powerful as we move towards this. There's a subtle shift where um, you can no longer go back to seeking, but because you're so deeply invested in discovering who you really are rather than trying to move towards some future moment, you don't actually notice when the fruit drops. You think you would notice, but most people, and myself, you're on the ground, the fruit's on the ground, and you're like, what happened? Somehow, and now I can't suffer. The understanding deepened in me that the fruit is going to ripen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's going to fall off the tree. When the seeking is done, the discovery, the exploration begins, and that's going to happen. But it's not one moment in time. It's more like every day a little less seeking, a little more discovery. And then somehow, some way, sometime you try to seek and there's nothing there that will want to move forward to some future time. And you don't know how that happened, except to say maybe you had ripened the fruit enough with your practice. But as it's understood that that's a spontaneous thing that's happening by itself, the ripening speeds up because you realize you can't do it wrong. You don't have to get it right either. Any authentic practice is really only to show you that trying to do it doesn't work. Trying to wake up to the truth has the opposite effect. It makes you feel more separate. Naturally, it became clear for me that it wasn't the actual practice that was doing the work. It was the intention behind the practice. So why am I sitting for meditation today? I'm going to sit down, meditate for 20 minutes because I should and I'm supposed to. And this is going to get me to awakening. And you could do that for many, many, many years and never feel any kind of shift inside, any opening or relaxation. And instead, there was this intention that developed. Like, I don't know why I'm meditating, or I just want to sit and meditate for no particular reason. That this is what I like to do at this time of the day. And there was a softening, an opening that happened with that, which is the ripening. But then you're not trying to make it happen. It's just enjoyable. Like in the morning, I have a cup of tea, I meditate. This is what I like to do. And it's a natural thing. It's spontaneous. The intention, the reason why we're doing it is 99% of the process, really. Intention starts, I need to do this. I need to sit and meditate. And then that burns off in the practice, and more there's just, I just want to. I just want to do this. At first, the intention feels like it's coming from a person. I really want to wake up to the truth. I have to get there. But more, instead of traveling towards something, there's this feeling that something is just drawing the mind and body into it, into itself, into the embrace of truth, like gravity pulling an object back down to earth. It's inevitable, and you're just relaxing into that more because you realize you can't mess it up. So it's really always the consciousness, the presence that's doing the practice. Is always that, but the presence thinks at first it is a person that can make an effort, so he makes lots of effort. Gravity, like grace, the fruit's gonna fall. There's no way it won't. And when you relax into that, it's much more likely to fall. The ripening is, yeah, it is the self discovering itself, the consciousness exploring itself, and wanting to shed this sense of limitation and a burden of, I have to do this. Yeah, at the beginning of the journey, we have this deep conviction that we are the doer of actions, the decider of decisions, the chooser of choices. And that has to burn itself out, meaning we have to seem to do lots and lots of things and try really, really hard. Um, for me, I was doing lots of meditation. There was a time when I was meditating for 6 or 7 hours a day because I thought I would get there 6 times as fast to the truth. But actually, it was going backwards because I was trying too hard. And it became clearer that the intention was the thing that was really shifting something inside. It was more shifting of energies rather than action, as if I had to become receptive and open. And the doingness was seen more to be a feeling, a sensation, that there wasn't actually an entity, a separate person doing anything, but that the consciousness felt like it was doing something. The body would sit down to meditate, and the ego said, I'm meditating. But none of that was actually going on. It was softening and softening into this realization that the doer of actions is just a sensation, a feeling only. And then it wasn't a problem anymore. There might always be a sense that I'm doing something, a sense only, but it's not, you can't believe in it then. It's just it's like an itch. It's just a sensation. Nothing, no trouble. The awakening was much faster when I realized that there's no person doing something, because if there's no person doing something, this question arose: why am I sitting to meditate? For what reason? And who is doing that? What makes the body sit down to do self-inquiry or meditation or contemplation? And it became clear that there's only the consciousness, and if the consciousness is somehow motivating the body to sit down, that there's only one result that's going to come from that. That the awakening has to occur and continue to deepen. There's no entity, no person that could mess that up or get it wrong or be in the middle of that process. There's just consciousness recognizing itself. And that looks like meditation, that looks like self-inquiry. And it became much faster. Then there was relaxation in the being, and just so much joy, a little bit each day, more joy, that this process has been going on who knows how many lifetimes, and I'm just seeing the pinnacle, the culmination of it now. It's coming to this point where consciousness is finished with feeling limited, doesn't want to feel limited at all. It's not interested in playing with those thoughts. It doesn't want to feel like a person. It wants to be itself spontaneously. Self-inquiry for me, it changed everything, because I didn't realize I was holding on to a sense of a separation, a sense of a person. When I was meditating, there was a real feeling I'm meditating, me, the person. But I didn't realize that until I would get up from the meditation seat and go into my day, and there would be much less pleasant feelings, very unpleasant emotions. Self-inquiry really got me to see that there's many subtle ways to hide the person. The doer hides in many subtle ways. And only by destroying that, meaning wanting to see where I'm still sustaining a sense of being a person, can I become free of it. And there's something really powerful about seeing I am already looking from where I'm trying to get to, all my efforts to get to something. I realize I've always felt like I was the fruit that was trying to drop on the ground. But then it became clearer, I'm the fruit, I'm the gravity, I'm the tree, and I'm the ground as well. So it doesn't matter really when it falls. It's just the tree's not bothered at all. It's not trying to rush the fruit. You must drop, hurry, you know? The positive thing about a realization or a seeing is that it gives us more life force, more light into the body and the mind. But the negative thing is desire is increased to realize who we are. But still, usually that desire is being conditioned by the sense of someone doing something. So the desire increases after you have this seeing. You really, really want it. And then the sense of a doer goes into overdrive. I'm going to do this. I'm going to really put a lot of effort in. But even that is really a success happening because the doer is burning itself out, exhausting itself. And it runs really, really, really fast trying to get somewhere. And after a while, it's exhausted, it relaxes because it can't try. And then another seeing will happen because it's surrendered in that moment. Another seeing will happen, and then it's slightly less able next time to run so fast. And so the things, it all speeds up then, it gets to that point. Mostly, we don't understand that process though, so we fight it. We want the seeings and we don't want the frustrating doing. Frustration, anger, jealousy, desperation were my most unwanted best friends through the process because they were great gifts in disguise. Every time I felt this sense of limitation or impossibility, something inside was, I don't want this anymore. And there was a recognition that I'm coming towards this. What I really want is to feel unlimited and that anything is possible because that's the natural state of all human beings. And we can live that spontaneously then when we recognize that we are the formless consciousness only. Paradoxically, without that frustration and despair and jealousy of other people's awakening, it just, I would still feel that I'm doing it and I'm getting there closer each day, but never actually arriving. Sometimes when we're expressing something, there's two reasons. One is because it feels spontaneous and it's what wants to happen, and like it has to come out. It's just natural. But there won't be any joy in it if the other reason is happening too. That second reason is that I'm also doing it to make myself feel better, feel more worthy, feel more loved. And when I express like that, then it's coming out, but it's kind of it's not the fullest, the richest that it could be. And something inside senses that. and then begins afterwards or during even to criticize ourselves. Like, I don't, you didn't do that right. You haven't expressed yourself properly. You could have done it better. Something like that. For me, this became clear that there was always two reasons for doing, two motivations for doing anything. And the first is that it's the infinite consciousness wanting to express itself. And that's coming from the richest place inside, the fullest. And then at the same time, there's a sense of a separate self that's trying to make itself feel more worthy by what it's doing and saying. And that stops the joy. So you can, in terms of spirituality, you can sound very awake, and for a while it was the same for me, that I don't feel any joy in it. And I would watch the sages and the saints, and they were always laughing and smiling. And there was this feeling, I don't have that. And I would start to notice this voice in the background, as soon as I'd finished a teaching session or a retreat, and you didn't do that right. You didn't explain that right. You should have said this. And it's subtle, really subtle, like an energy more than anything particular being said. Sometimes it's obvious that there's this self-criticism. And this somehow became this distance between this second reason, eventually, that because it's always deepening and always expressing itself ever more clearly, that will go on forever, that sense of deeper ability to express the same thing. And each time it's deeper and more clear, and there's no end to that process. That if I'm listening to this second reason, this second voice that wants a final way, the best way to express it, that's never going to happen. This is the best way now. These words that are coming out are the best way now. And then this second reason falls away. And there's more than a sense of celebration, that the words and the actions are a celebration of existence rather than any reason at all. They're not happening for any reason at all. I'm not trying to get anything from this. And we're talking about spiritual teaching here, but we could be talking about anything: why we go to work, or why we raise children, or why we paint or sing or dance or anything. For most of us, there's always these two reasons. And just to see the second one, it will begin to fall away. Joy naturally arises then. You can't stop it then. Maybe we never reach a place where we feel that we've perfected this completely, whatever it is that the body is doing. But maybe it's not a sense of moving from imperfect to perfect, but more perfect to even more perfect to even more perfect. And the recognition deepens that that can go on forever. Perfect right now, and in the next moment, an even more perfect way to express it. Took me a long time to realize. Whatever life calls us to do, however it wants to express itself through that body and mind, through our body and mind, life is not saying, you're the wrong person. Life is saying you're the right person. Eventually, we realize actually maybe that's true. For me, there was a recognition that maybe I'll never feel 100% comfortable. Um, Maybe that's just me, and that's okay. Meaning, if I expect myself to turn up to some teaching or some event and never to feel nervous again, or to walk out of every event feeling like I did that perfectly all the time, it's impossible. But that voice becomes more like constructive criticism rather than judgment. Maybe you could have slowed down a little bit, or maybe you could have just repeated this, or some way, rather than you did that totally wrong. And it's even maybe a good thing that something is watching and trying to refine and trying to clarify even more. And again, we're talking here about spiritual teaching, but it could be anything at all, whatever we're doing. I had to learn to embrace that and realize it actually needed to be there. And when I embraced it, it stopped being my harshest critic and became my best helper. Everything that life has given us, we might think is a bad thing, but it's actually all the tools we need to do whatever we're here for. If we can embrace them, we'll see how to use them wisely rather than thinking that they shouldn't be there, they should go away. Perhaps we've even developed skills that we brought into this physical incarnation over many, many incarnations. And this is the culmination of that. And usually we judge ourselves because we are not finding where to apply those skills as yet. Like in my own journey, I would find myself being too direct all the time because something I wanted to express. My parents and my children and my siblings didn't want that directness, and it would get me into so much trouble. And they would say, you're too harsh and too blunt." And so I felt like held it all inside. But as it became clearer how life wanted to express itself this way, it's like, oh, I need that. That needs to be there. It needs to, everything that I don't like about myself is actually seen to be necessary and helpful, actually. It's just self-love emerging, really. Life as a separate being is full of limitation. And even if we're brave enough to know what our dream is, what we want to do, why we feel we're here, we're more focused on the reasons why it can't happen. I don't have enough time or resources, or it's just not possible right now. And the process of awakening is that the consciousness is going to free itself of those limiting ideas so that we can begin to allow that abundance to flow in and out. We have the freedom we need, the time we need, the energy we need to do whatever we're here for. You know the story, right? When he gave when he went to see Maharaji in India, Ramdas, and uh Maharaji was asking him how he experiences truth. And he said, I take this LSD tablets, and Maharaji said, give them to me. And he had this bag that had enough for his whole time in India, 3 or 4 months. So he gives them to Maharaji, and he's like, well, I want them, I need them for myself, But he was giving them because this great love came for his teacher. And Maharaji grabs this handful of just puts the ball in his mouth. And Ramdas is having a heart attack because he would just take one and it would last for hours and hours. And they're all sat there watching Maharaji going like, because they're on the top of a mountain. There's no ambulance, no hospital, nothing. And Ramdas is going, I killed the guru. I've killed the guru. And he's just sat there, Maharaji, like nothing happened to him. Because the substance only works whatever that substance is. It could be caffeine or some drugs or sugar. When we actually believe in the name and the label more than the actual essence of the thing. So if I know the essence of something that comes into my body is the same essence as I am, it's consciousness, it will have absolutely no effect on me. And we've seen this manifested by many sages over the years, and we're not lifted up or pulled down by it. And of course, it's not a good idea to take a massive amount of substance just to test this. It's not recommended, but gradually you begin to see that when we think we're a person, we think we're a vibration, an energy. And so other energies, other vibrations, like sugar, for example, or caffeine, seem to have an effect upon our body. And some people say they have this sugar rush, they have this high, a little sugar rush, and then they come down afterwards. And or people will say, I can't drink caffeine before I go to sleep at night because it will keep me awake. And there's a point where that just doesn't happen anymore, because it's no different than consciousness, than silence, than presence. This substance, whatever it is the same as yourself. There's no difference. It's another appearance of yourself. And so it loses its capacity to influence you. And it is almost neutralize is not quite the right word, but it just has no effect upon you. Well, we think we're a person, it'll have every effect. But as that sense of separation falls away, there's less and less ability. Of course, it doesn't mean that we feed our body all kinds of bad stuff just because it has no effect. in fact, the opposite happens, that we feel that we're not needing anything to lift us up or calm us down anymore. There's more equanimity in living as who we are, really are anyway. And our state isn't changing as the sense of separation is gone. We're not up and down like a roller coaster ride. There's just an equanimity because we're experiencing our real self consciously. We're only up and down, lifted up and down by things when we think that we're someone. But of course, it looks miraculous to someone who doesn't know how it works. That some substance that's taken just doesn't have any effect at all eventually. And really, it never did help us to see the truth, only to stop believing so completely in that moment, in our sense of separation. Just opens a door, a little gap that the truth can sneak in through. It's a huge burden to feel we have to make the right choice and use the free will that we think we have to the best extent, that if I'm not using, I feel like I have free will as a person and that I have to make the right choice. And it's a heavy burden. But also at the same time, there's something that wants to hold on to that sense of free will. I get to choose. I want to make my life go the way that I want it to. And for a lot of people, there's this opposing motion. I don't want this free will. I want to realize who I am, but I also want this free will to realize who I am. It was the same for me. And when someone would ask a teacher and I was listening, is there this choice? Do I have any choice actually? And they would explain some answer. There was this sense of excitement, but also real deep frustration at the same time. I don't know which side of the door I want to stand on. I want to stay outside as the person or come inside, and can I stand in both? But then I realized after a lot of looking that the free will is only in where the attention is, where our attention has gone to what is real or what is unreal, our sense of a separate self. And that felt easier, that felt more direct, more powerful. And then it became very, very simple that whatever was going on in my outer world was a reflection of where my attention was going inside. And that felt like, paradoxically, I had a lot of free will then, a lot of power, a lot of choice, but not as a person, as the infinite consciousness, the infinite presence. I can always control where my attention is, but then I don't need to. I realize everything is myself. It doesn't matter where my attention is. This sense of free will, it's very problematic for a lot of beings, especially when we're trying to wake up to the truth. Because we somehow, I feel intuitively know that we have to choose something, but maybe not the choice that we think, maybe not the choice of what to do, but where to bring attention becomes more important. And the body's just more and more doing whatever it's doing from as a result of where the attention has rested. If it's rested in what is real, the consciousness, the silence, then the actions are going to be in alignment with that and move us deeper into truth. But it's not clear really. There's still some sense of individuality and free will. But a lot of beings get very confused about this. It's a very common area where people have a lot of struggle. there's a myth, I think, in the human consciousness that someone who is awakened, like living authentically, is going to have this magical capacity to just feel physical pain and it's okay. There's a total it's okay. Some feeling like that. And it's not true, it's pain, physical pain hurts everyone, no matter what they've realized to be true, or how much they're lost in illusion, or have seen who they really are. Perhaps someone who has awakened to the truth is able to embrace their utter dislike of the pain. Like, physical pain is relentless, whether it's a aching, throbbing pain or it's a very sharp pain. There's always going to be something inside of us that says no to that. I don't want that. And for in my own journey, my own sense of ego really, really rejected the idea of physical pain, even the idea of it, because there was some myth that I was holding on to that I would reach some place in my journey where I could just say, oh, it's physical pain, how nice. And that just never happened. If I was in a lot of pain today, right now, there would be this feeling of, I don't want this. It would arise just like it always has. I would always prefer to feel bliss than physical pain. It's always going to be that way. But the difference might be that the awakened being can fully accept that dislike and isn't trying to get rid of it. Our ego might have this idea that to awaken to the truth, I have to somehow stop disliking it. I have to come to a place of equanimity with the pain. And that's just not really possible. We're in the awakened way, we're having this physical pain in the body, and it's allowed to its fullest extent that we can allow it. And also this dislike of this physical pain, a sense of no, I don't want this. That's also allowed. And a recognition that they both come together. That this no and this physical pain are really the same thing becomes clearer. It's such a pervading myth, though, in human beings, this idea that somehow I'm going to reach this magical place where it just doesn't affect me. Pain is pain. It's relentless. It's the harshest teacher of all teachers. Very direct and will not give up. And if we've ever had there was a period in my life where I had a lot of intense physical pain, and I really had my shoulder quite badly. And it taught me this, that I'm always going to dislike it, no matter how much I've seen who I am. There's something very human about physical pain. It makes us very humble and very authentic to this dislike, this sense of no. There's no magic level of consciousness where suddenly everything is fantastic. There's a point in our practice where it's helpful to bring attention to what is real, because there's a feeling of a separate person that has control in that way, and then while it's there, we can use that sense of a person to bring attention back to what is real, so that we can get closer to realizing who we are. And That's a helpful practice for a long time for most of us. But as we start to realize that we're not actually a person separate to everyone else, and maybe most importantly, not separate to the awareness, the presence, that becomes increasingly paradoxical. Bring attention back. Well, who's doing that and why? And what is the purpose of it? And it begins to become really clear. In fact, we can slow down. If we say, okay, now take your attention away from thoughts and bring it to the presence that's here right now all the time, we just assume automatically that somehow I made it move. I picked the attention up and brought it back to what is real. But if we slow right down and look, we'll see that we didn't actually do anything to make attention move. There was an intention that arose for attention to come back to presence. And that was the doing that happened. So we didn't make an action, but the suggestion, bring attention back, is also allowing an intention in us to arise, like strengthening an intention that's already there. The reminder, bring attention back, it is fortifying this intention to recognize what's true. And this intention reaches a critical mass. It gets big enough somehow through repetition, strong enough that attention kind of comes to rest more on the presence by itself. When we don't understand this process so well, we think that we're doing it, that somehow we're fortifying the sense of a person that's doing it. Somehow I made attention move on, and it feels like a doing. But when you realize it's an intention, there's a different energy behind it. It's more like a soft call. Come back here. Come back here. And attention comes on its own more than having to make it move. And eventually, it's just clear that there's nowhere that attention could go that is other than myself anyway. Even if attention is looking at a thought or an emotion, those are really the presence in disguise anyway. So even when attention wanders around, there's no need to even intend anything, because it's all myself, it's all the presence. At that point, paradoxically, attention stops wandering anyway and stays on the formless aspect of presence rather than how it's appearing in manifestation. And there's a sense of having achieved the goal, which is to bring all attention to stay here on the presence, the formless presence. But it's not really true. It's just attention has stopped wandering to phenomena because we realize it's all the presence. Where would attention wander when you know that everything is presence? Why does it need to wander? Attention wanders around to all these interesting objects it thinks are important, like thoughts, emotions, other people, bodies, but as you realize that they're not so important, or that all phenomena are equally important because they're all the presence, then attention says, I'm just gonna sit down here and relax. I'm too tired, too tired to go running around. Sometimes when that happens, there's a sense of separation that claims ownership. I have achieved. I have achieved awakening, or something like that. But even that becomes much more painful when, for a short time, it can't last very long. It has to be seen that that's just another thought. It's an I thought, which attention has gone to. attention goes there, and we realize very quickly that's also another way I'm showing up. The sense of a person is just another phenomenon arising inside the consciousness, and it isn't given any more special treatment than any other phenomenon then. I think that while that consciousness feels that it's a separate being, it's really, really, really serious, because it's trying to always ensure its survival and trying to feel better. But there's a melting that happens as it realizes that it's formless, infinite consciousness and has always been. This feeling that I was only ever deluded by myself, not by anything else, becomes more joyful, more free. The recognition of who we really are. It helps us to see that we were never really caught and never really unsafe and never really not free. And then there is a lightness, a spontaneity, and a sense of freedom in everything that we do or say. There's not this heaviness all the time. It feels very much like a game sometimes, a joy, a play. Not even a game where you have to get to the end of a level so you can go to the next level. Just a joy of playing something. That becomes pretty much the only way you can function. And even if something doesn't feel fun or feel joyful, the body won't move. There's no life force. It's got to be coming from some sense of joy or passion, something like that. To play, we realize that we are all these shapes, these forms. And then, of course, you're happy to play with those shapes now. You can't be caught in them anymore. You can't get caught in this believing yourself to be only one of these shapes, these forms. It's different then. It's very childlike, not childish, childlike. Very. There's a deep sense of wonder and joy, and a feeling that everything that we're perceiving is equally beautiful, even if we would have called it ugly or unwanted or before. It becomes still very, very beautiful, like the perfect thing that we have created or sculpted, and the whole universe is our painting, our three-dimensional moving painting somehow. It's this paradoxical feeling that we're painting and we're being painted, and the painting is never going to end. The infinite painter and the sense of being painted, and that painting will never quite be complete, but each moment it will be ever more beautiful somehow, something like that. I often think artists who can sculpt or paint or sing or dance, um, uh, photography, making even movies, are trying to capture that essence of the beauty of it somehow, in some way, a little slice of it somehow, and highlighting. For example, if you watch a leaf fall off a tree and float down onto some water, most of us would just look and say, "Oh, the leaf is dead now. It's hit the water." But the artist, the photographer, the painter, they would somehow capture the beauty of the falling And the mind would just go, falling is bad, is dead now. But the artist is somehow capturing the essence or some kind of transformation. The leaf is dead to the mind, but it's a uh, perfectly falling leaf. And the ripples that spread when it hits the water will never be the same twice. Even if the same leaf fell an infinite number of times, somehow they would spread differently. And there's a whole rich inner way to perceive reality when you can recognize what it really is like that. There's a dance going on all the time. There's sometimes like right now as I'm speaking, the sense of the beauty is just overwhelming. As if God wanted to show himself to me as me, but also as everything that I'm looking at and experiencing. Every word, every breath of air, every sensation is like being kissed, embraced somehow. And there's this paradox of going from feeling completely unsafe, unloved, and unlovable to realizing that even that feeling of being unlovable is God expressing itself as me. There's a deep recognition that there was never even a millimeter between me and God, not any distance. Even the thought that I am not that is a perfect sculpture made out of God, and it is worthy of reverence in some way. And sometimes that builds into some kind of well, there's usually bliss there, but some kind of ecstasy, as if you were being intimate with the divine somehow, some deep intimacy, some richness. Intimacy is the closest word I can find, but it still suggests two, but one playing as two, maybe. It's just love, loving itself. That feeling, that feeling when you remember that you've always been safe and that you've never left your original wholeness and purity. That nothing has ever changed or happened for you, and yet you can then begin a discovery of an infinite number of ways to remember this, that you never left. That life will give you an infinite number of ways to remember and celebrate. And even the sounds that would have been problematic, the traffic noises, the noise when you're trying to sleep, or the thoughts inside, these little packets of perfection, of divinity in a little packet, a tiny, tiny packet. And they feel like silk running down your skin. That feeling of, or if you could pick up a feather and just run it along your skin. It's Mm. And the body becomes alive. The body, I mean, it's always alive, but it's like the sensitivity is turned up. And the taste to eat the same food, but now it's exquisite. It's a banquet. It's a explosion of flavor. And there's a capacity to pick out individual flavors. The before would have just, you wouldn't have noticed. It would just be, I'm eating this because it's food, and or some thought that I shouldn't be eating it or whatever. The colors and the smell and the senses are just vibrant somehow. All of life is a celebration somehow then. Mm. Maybe we realize that heaven is right in the middle of hell. Somehow we realize.